So now I get to braid you guys on health, of course, yeah. So health. As youngsters, we kind of just live by the, seat of our britches. We just kind of do whatever we want. We binge drink on the weekends. I saw you. We binge drink on the weekends. We fly down Riverside on our longboards and skateboards, jumping off to our heart's desires. And we never really think anything's gonna happen to us. We're pretty much invincible, right? Well, there comes a day where we might land in the emergency room and we might have a broken fibula or we might have strep throat. So we probably should take a little bit better care of ourselves. And we all know loved ones who have had some kind of major issue in the past. Now, what if I were to tell you that Oklahoma was choosing money over taking care of our citizens? Well, according to the Oklahoma Healthcare Authority, as effective as to June 1st, they are cutting Medicaid and Medicare by 25%. That may not seem like a big deal to you guys, but rest assured, this is a major problem. We need to really pay attention to this right now because this is going to affect the children in our state, it's going to affect the adults, and it's going to affect the elderly. So we should start a policy proposal that states that they need to reform and change this before it becomes effective and it has drastic effects that we may not even be able to estimate upon. So you might be asking, how will this affect children? Well, according to a Tulsa World News article by Mike Averill, 8,000 children rely on funding for statewide for therapists. So 8,000 kids, they need to go and see a therapist because they might have some kind of potential mental health issue. We need to make sure that our children are taken care of and that their problems don't become something bigger that we can't handle later on when they're adults. And just in the Tulsa County alone, we have had 757 teen births within 2014. And in 2015, according to Leah Washington Post, Oklahoma is one of 10 states that has recently passed legislation to cut funding to Planned Parenthood. And a lot of you may be thinking, well, Planned Parenthood is just solely an abortion provider. Well, that's actually wrong. According to federal law, they cannot provide abortion funding unless it's at the expense of the woman's health or there was rape or incest involved. So by cutting this legislation and cutting the funding to Planned Parenthood, we're kind of telling our youth that they don't matter, that we can support the birth of their child rather than the preventative measures taken to take care of their bodies and make sure that they don't get pregnant. So we need to provide preventative measures so that we do not have problems later on in life. As an adult and as adults in Oklahoma, we are actually already in pretty bad shape. We rank 6th in the nation for obesity, and this has led to very costly procedures with heart disease and medications and statins. And we rank 35th in the nation for percentage of people who have a usual source of care, according to the Oklahoma Healthcare Authority. And they actually also stated in that very same article that a usual source of care actually helps with preventative care. So preventing obesity could actually come from a usual source of care. By cutting the funding to this, you won't receive that usual source of care and you could have very potential life-threatening risks from it. Now remember how I was talking about the kids and therapy and stuff like that? Well, actually, suicides, they outrank homicides in the state of Oklahoma by nearly 3-1. So you guys kind of get scared watching the news, watching everybody kill everyone. You're like, oh my God, they're gonna come get me. Actually, mental health is more of an issue in Oklahoma than we think it is. We're actually 36% higher than national average according to the 2014 State of the State's Health, Oklahoma State Department of Health. And in Tulsa, we're 61% higher than the national average. Now let that sink in. That's pretty bad. We should really pay attention to the mental health in the state. If we don't provide the funding necessary for this, then we'll have a lot more suicides. Or we could have something potentially worse, such as the Aurora, Colorado shooting, if proper funding is not given. So, you've lived your life as an adult and you've paid into Social Security and you probably even fought a war at one time and now you're all old and you're like, I need a nursing home. Well, what if I were to tell you that, yeah, you might get into your nursing home, but eventually you're gonna get kicked out because guess what? Cuts to Medicaid and Medicare are happening. So these cuts to Medicaid and Medicare will leave people without jobs and the elderly homeless. And many elderly are actually not surprised by this. They already know, like, oh, the state doesn't really care about us. Like, we're just gonna move along. And as a healthcare employee, that just breaks my heart because I know the elderly, they cannot withstand a move. Their little old bodies cannot physically move that fast, and they just wouldn't survive it. That wouldn't be an okay thing to just say, pack your bags, you're leaving, like you have nowhere to go. Just because our state decided to choose money over helping people. In an article by Will Hutchison, he reported that 93% of nursing homes would be at risk of closure, and that 70% of the residents are Medicaid recipients. So sole funding of these places comes from Medicaid. And if you had been promised in your early years after fighting the war and paying into Social Security that you'd be taken care of, you kind of want to believe that. You want to believe that society cares enough about the elderly that we should do something about it. So what should we do about it? Well, I believe we should start an online petition and try to get 100 signatures so we can get that put on the ballot for next year's upcoming votes and everything. Since elderly are a large population of people that vote in Oklahoma, this would be sure to pass as to see that we do not have any more cuts to our spending in Medicaid and Medicare. As the baby boomer population rises up and there's a lot more people that need that help, we do not need to choose money over our people. We need to choose society. And there's no greater cost. There's no such cost or nothing that can prevent us from taking care of our people like we should. So I want to implore you guys to really pay attention to this and vote if you can. Thank you.